This conference will now be recorded.
Okay, so we'll start off with our session today. We'll just have a quick recap of what we have done yesterday. So basically, we have gone through these SAML and secure web authentication protocols integrations. We have seen the demos of those integrations. Today, we'll start off with an OIDC integration. It won't be a demo, to be honest, because it cannot be a live demo because I don't have any demo OIDC app with me. But I want to go through the configurations one. I want to show you guys, what can be done and how the flow works and stuff like that. So I'll just quickly share my screen. Let's start off with our discussion on OIDC integration so that we cover all the SSO protocols, and then we'll move forward with other things that we have in Okta. So I'll quickly share my screen. Just let me know once it's visible to you guys. Okay, yeah. Just let me know once it's visible.
It's visible.
Okay, thank you. So I'm on to the. I've just logged into my Okta application with my admin credentials. That was like my Gmail ID, and I just went on to the application tabs. So under application tabs, as we have done till now, we are generally working with AIW connectors, that is the application integration wizard, which consists of custom connectors. And then browse app catalog is Okta integration network, which consists of standard connectors, right? So we have mainly focused on custom connections for as of now. And the reason why we have focused on custom connectors is because if in case we are going ahead with the standard connectors, right? So we do require some actual tenants of these, for example, if I want to integrate Salesforce directly with this connector, I need to have Salesforce admin permissions. Like yesterday, you remember that we created a Salesforce account. So that is like you have just created an account in Salesforce. I'm not an admin over there in Salesforce, right? It is I'm just a user over here. So it's like just you are a normal end user for the Salesforce application. But if in case I need to go ahead and create a setup or connection with Salesforce using this standard connection, then I do require admin permissions on the Salesforce side because it's kind of a federation, right? So what I did with Salesforce yesterday is secure web authentication. So for secure web authentication, it's not a federation because I'm just configuring stuff on the identity provider side. I'm not doing anything on the Salesforce side. But if in case I want SAML connection to be configured for Salesforce, so in that scenario, I do require admin permissions on the Salesforce side. Then only I can go ahead and upload or update metadata or stuff like that. So that I don't have, and that is the reason why I haven't gone ahead with the integrations on the standard connectors. But nothing to worry, to be very honest. Custom connectors are, or custom integrations are far more difficult when compared to standard integrations. The reason being because you are building or creating a connection from scratch in custom connections, whereas in standard connections already Okta has built in a lot of stuff on their own, and we are just leveraging those services. So we just have to put in the login logout URLs, and it will be done. So I'll just give you an example of how to do a standard connection integration also, and I'll just go through all those concepts which you should be knowing if in case tomorrow you are being asked a question in an interview or on your job to do stuff on standard integrations. But to start off, for the time being, we'll go ahead with the custom integrations, and today we'll just have a walkthrough on what OIDC is all about. Okay, so now, like till yesterday, we just selected SAML 2.0 or SWA, right? So now today, when we are selecting OIDC, you might be able to see that you see three different types of applications which pop up once you select OIDC protocol. So why do we get these things is because I did mention when I covered OIDC flow was that the most used flow in OIDC or in OpenID Connect is authorization code grant flow. Okay, so there are different types in grant. Sorry, there are different grant types in OIDC. Okay, so there is authorization code grant flow, there is client credentials grant flow, there is resource owner grant flow, there is implicit type. So there are different use cases. Okay, and when I say use cases, it means that protocol is OIDC, but there are different ways to achieve that, protocol. So like the flow will be different. So for example, we have seen the flow of an OIDC right over here. So this was the flow which we had in OIDC, right? This was the authorization code grant type flow, right? So over here we had the user, regular web app, authorization server, and an API. So like we'll have all these identities, but the flow will be different in all other grant types, right? So that's why you will be able to see, that for single page applications you have implicit grant type, for native applications you have PKC grant type. So there are different use cases for which you can have different grant types, but to be honest, 99% of the times you are going to go ahead and do the web application grant type flow. So web application use case always come under authorization code grant type, which we have, covered over here. So let's go ahead and, try to create a connection. So it will just ask me for my application name, maybe, test web app is something I'll give. And it will now, it's a grant type. So if you want to learn more about it, you can just go ahead and, read some documentation over here. As I've mentioned before that, like the most used grant type is the authorization code, but like, there are different grant types also, which by which you can like, achieve OIDC flow. Now, what is a grant type is something, that how do you grant permissions? Like, how do you grant? Because the authorization, like, this is the concept of OAuth 2.0. OIDC is just, adding that layer of authentication. Grant type concept is the concept of OAuth flow, not OIDC flow. OIDC has these grant types because OIDC is just, bringing that layer of authentication on top of OAuth. So under OAuth, we have different grant types. So like OAuth is an authorization protocol, right? So I did mention that we have authentication protocols and then we have authorization protocols. So for the ones like the authorization protocol, it actually helps you to refine your access. Like it helps you to grant different set of permissions to the user, right? So that's what authorization is all about. So that is the reason why we have, grant types, and this is what a grant type is. Like how do you actually grant permissions to the user, like the set of permissions. For example, you require access to Outlook, so like, how do you get that permission, or do you have that permission, that authorization to use that application or stuff like that. That is something, what we call as authorization, and that is, and how do we actually give you or like how do we grant that access to you, is something done by authorization, and that's where this a grant type concept came into existence. Okay, so now we have different types of grant type. You can just, go ahead and read through them, but for the timing we are just, going to look into the most used case, most popular or the familiar use case, that is the authorization code grant type. uh, like if I just want to, brief all of these grant types. So client credential grant type is mainly used for, machine to machine authentication. So what is machine to machine authentication? So machine to machine is, for example, you are working with APIs. Now think of it like, API is something, an application programming interface, which is, just carrying or populating data from one place to another. That's it. Like think of an API as that thing. So an API is like, which helps you to transfer data, read data, update data, delete data, and stuff like that. So now, like, an API is trying to read data to an application, or, update data to an application. Okay, so there is an API, there is an application. Now to get into that application, you require that API to be authenticated. Like even if a user wants to access an application, so the user needs to authenticate himself, right? So that's then only user gets into the application. So an API also needs to authenticate. Otherwise, any exposed API or any other API, I create an API and I can just, like get into the application, then it can have security breaches or security concerns. So that's why an API needs to authenticate itself, and that's where this concept comes into existence, that okay, you have an API, you have a machine, and then you have an application. Both are kind of machines. There is no real identity over there, right? So that's why it's machine to machine authentication, and that's why we have these client credentials. So in that machine to machine authentication, we actually do not have this user. It's actually this regular web app authorization and API. So only this part is something what we can say as the client credential flow. So like, I mean, just we have it different ways, but like to be honest, like most used and the most complicated one is the authorization code flow only. So we can just think of it for the time being. Then you can see that we have sign in redirect URIs. So the sign in redirect URI is the login redirect URI. Okay, so now what is a login redirect URI? Which that is, this is the URL which Okta will be sending the authentication response and the ID token for the user sign in request. Okay, so over here, if you see, right, so over here, you can think OAuth as your Okta over here. So once the like authentication is successful, everything is validated, that point of time Okta will be sending back the ID token to some URI, right? Over here in SAML also we had ACS URL, which was a search and consumer service. So at that point of time also, like when there was a SAML response being generated, so Okta used to send it back to the application, and that response was being consumed at the search and consumer service URL. So same way over here as well, like there is a login redirect URI, that once the authentication has happened, Okta is satisfied that you are a legitimate user, it has to send back the response to somewhere on the service provider, that is on the application side, right? And that's what this URL is all about. And this sign out redirect URI is something like, if you want like once you are into your application and if you log out intentionally, if you go to the application and intentionally log out yourself, then where would you be redirected to? So, like, it's just optional. After your application contacts Okta to close the user session, Okta redirection. Like, if you want, like, you have a logout page for your application already created. So, and if there is a URL for it, so after, you log out the session from Okta, you can just redirect that to that page. So, it's completely optional, nothing to do with the configuration settings, to be honest. Like, if in case we do require, then we can go ahead with it. If in case we don't, then it's fine. So, and the last option is the trusted origins. So trusted origins is actually, mainly for those scenarios wherein, we want to restrict, like, requests coming from. So for example, I would say that, I just want to trust this origin, like maybe just the salesforce.com. I don't want, other domain. So if we don't select anything over here, it will trust all the domains. If in case we just specify that if the request is coming from some selected domains, like maybe sharepoint.com, salesforce.com, google.com, microsoft.com, so in those scenarios it will understand, okay, these are only my trusted domains. Now if the request comes somewhere out of this domain, maybe my like I have created my own site with the domain as vibho.com. Now if the request is coming from vibho.com, it will simply reject it, it won't allow me to enter it. So it's kind of just putting that domain restriction. If in case you require this, usually we don't require this, like but if you have a use case from the client saying that no, we do require to put this restriction, just go ahead and add those domains over here, and it will automatically take it up from there. Now, if you see the access part, like access part is pretty much, exactly the same what you have on the SAML side. You can just create an Okta group and, assign it to the application, or you can directly assign people as you were doing in SAML or SWA applications, or, you already have an application or group, Okta group created named as everyone, right? So everyone is something, an Okta group, which is by default there in Okta. So any user created in Okta automatically, goes by default to that everyone group. So if you assign everyone, so everyone in the Okta organization, whosoever is there in this Okta tenant, right, they'll be assigned to this particular application. So configuration wise, that's it. Like it doesn't have much. Like we'll just skip the assignment for as of now. So configuration wise, we don't have much over here. But to be honest, like like the moment we actually start working with this application, it's very difficult to trace. Okay, so I'll just come up with those concepts as well. So currently, you would have seen that the moment I have created the application, there is a client ID and client secret generated. Okay, so you must be remembering that I did mention about this, that there is a client ID and client secret over here. Okay, and in auth code you have to get back with auth code, client ID and client secret, and these three set of combinations actually help you to validate on the Okta side whether you are a legitimate user or not. If in case you are not a legitimate user, it won't allow you, right? So so that is the reason, like that's how this client ID and client secret is generated. Now this is something which we need to give back to the application team. We need to copy it and give it back to the application team as it is. So now see, like there's a configuration setting to be done on the app side, and that's why this is a federation protocol. We did some configurations on Okta side. Now we have generated certain things. Like in SAML, we generated a metadata. Over here, we are generating the client ID, client secret, and this is something which we are giving back to the application team. They need to configure this stuff, and that's when once they configured it, they can just go ahead and test the connection. So like there is a configuration done on both the side, and hence it's a federation protocol. Now there comes a very important concept over here, which is like you might be wondering what is the metadata over here, like how do we get to have the metadata. So like there is again a metadata URL over here. Let's go ahead and try to find that metadata URL. So see what happens is like the moment an application is created, OIDC application is created in Okta, right? So at that point of time itself, there is a metadata which is generated on its own. Okay, so there is a concept of authorization server, right? So we mentioned about this authorization server. Okay, so there is one default authorization server which we have in Okta. If you go to security and if you go to API, right? So you'll see that you have a default authorization server. Like this is valid for all the application. If I just go into this authorization server, so you'll be able to see that it's available for everything. Like it's not just available for particular, it's available as assigned to all the clients. As all clients means like any application in Okta, any OIDC, I mean any OIDC application in Okta, it will be assigned to that particular client. Okay, now why are we talking about authorization server? We are talking about authorization server because authorization server is the one who is going to authenticate you. It's not going to be Okta. Because you have the authorization server inside Okta, then that could be the reason why you are getting authenticated. But over here, authorization server is that main reason why you are getting authenticated, right? So now if I just want to like show you guys. So for example, you have this particular authorization server created. Okay, this is the default one, so we are not going to use this. Instead, we are going to use the authorization server which is created for the application. So if we'll just go back to the application one, and if we go to this test web app, and over here I'll just copy this client ID and I'll just try to hit this. Okay, I think I'm not assigned to the application. Okay, so basically, actually, what happens is that what I was trying to convey was that there is a default authorization server which we already have in Okta, and then we have these set of one second, I think I just copied the wrong URL. Okay. Actually, what I was trying to do over here was that I was just, trying to get that default metadata URL which will consist all the information about, the application. So, what happens over here is that there is a client ID generated, right? So this client ID is basically unique for every application. Okay. So this cannot be, same for any two different, I mean, for two applications. Therefore, what we were trying to do is that we wanted to actually go ahead and see the metadata. So this application on its own would have created a metadata in the backend, and that's how it's going to contain all the information about this application. So sometimes what happens is that there comes a requirement saying that okay, we require certain attributes to be passed from this particular application. Okay, it could be attributes or so there are two different ways to actually go ahead and like pass those attribute values. Either you can go ahead and create an authorization server, and if you go to API you can just go ahead and create an authorization server, or you can use the default server. And if you're using a default server, at that point of time you have to give them this particular URL. Okay, so maybe I can just give one more try maybe. Okay, no, it's not working. Okay. Okay, yeah. So at that point of time, I was saying that we need to give this particular set of metadata URI. Now, what you can do is that you can go ahead and create a scope. Now what is a scope? Now scope is something that that will define what level of access, or what level of permissions you have to view inside the application. Okay, so OpenID is one scope. It's like by default you have to, if in case you are using an authorization server concept within the application, they have to use the OpenID scope. It is a signal that a request is an OpenID request. That's how it has been identified that's an OpenID request. So otherwise it could be OAuth request also, so we don't know. So that's why we need to specify if it is OpenID. So then on the application side you need, but like in Okta by default any OIDC request going, you'll have scope created as OpenID. But if in case on the application side they need to check the request coming to the application, if it's an OpenID or an OAuth request, so they need to put the OpenID scope at their end. Then we have profile scope. So this scope allows you to view the profile information. So like whatever profile, like your first name, last name, email ID, company name, location name, and stuff like that. So if in case you are not using this data, this scope, you cannot view the profile of the user, right? So application cannot use the profile of the user. So you might be remembering, right? So request is user is requesting data with an access token to an API. So this is that API. Now this API will be having some scopes with it, right? So those scopes is something what we are talking about right now. So scopes are something which allows you to have those set of permissions under which you are allowed to view certain set of things on the application end. Then email ID, something to view your email ID, and stuff like that. You can also go ahead and create your custom scope. For example, you can say that I like maybe test scope, uh, just like just the description, it's not required, although then user consent, maybe no. Default scope, I mean user consent is something that whenever it goes on the application side, user has to give a consent to it, right? Or if in case we are not selecting it, then user won't be, like on the application side, user won't be getting any pop-up to see. Like for example, you might be using your phones, right? So on your phones you get an like if you open an app, you get can this application access your contacts, you give yes or no. So that is like a user consent, right? So if you are giving no, that means no. But if you are not if we are not check marking this box, so you won't get this pop-up. You are into, if there is a profile scope, I mean if there is a scope configured on the app side, you are into it. Like there won't be anything asked to the end user. So that's what it is. And including public metadata means like there's a metadata which is already created for this authorization server, which is this. So in that scenario, and this is how it looks like. Okay, and this was something I was trying to show you guys for that particular application. It's kind of complicated, and also it doesn't contain much, like to be honest, for the time being. But I just wanted to show you guys that this is how an OIDC metadata looks like. Okay, so you can just ignore it for the time being, but later, we'll just go through it once we have some more sessions coming up. Okay. So apart from that, yeah, so I was discussing about scope. So that's how, that's what scopes are all about. Next, if it is, next we'll talk about claims. So claims are something, it's kind of an attribute only. Like in SAML, you were sending attributes, like user dot first name, user dot last name, user dot email. So it's kind of attributes only, which are, pertaining to scopes. Now, for example, I have created a scope over there. Now I'm creating a test claim over here. Okay, so I can give it to whether I want it in my access token or ID token. So I did mention what is an ID token and an access token. So I'll give you an example of that fare. ID token is something if you are having it on your entry, like if you are getting into a fare, so that entry ticket which you are taking is your ID token. And if you want to have some rides and do some fun inside the fair, you need to purchase tickets for that, so that is your access token, right? So over here it's up to you, like people don't require access token every time. Like it's not necessary that you get into the fair and you have to go to the rides. They don't want to spend their money, or they don't want to have that fun. So it's up to individual. So but they do require certain information about the user, which which should be, which they are willing to get in their entry ticket only. So it's fine, like we can just go ahead and give it in the ID token. But if in case there are a lot of things which we don't want to send it in the ID token, then we can definitely go ahead and do it in the access token, right? So that is up to us. Now this is like expression language. I we'll have a separate session of what Okta expression language is, but for the time being, you can just think of it of like exactly that same thing, like user or first name, or you can just write it in that language that you want to give a space, or like user dot last name and stuff like that. And you can give it to any scope, or you might have created one scope which was test scope, so you can just limit the scope to that particular scope. Oh, I think I haven't created that scope last. Okay, I'll just remove this space, and that's how my claim is created. Okay. Yeah, I didn't create anything, so that's why. Now since this is like a default authorization server, so it will be assigned to all the particular application, OIDC application. Now if I just want to have like see, so see, only my OIDC clients will be available here, nothing apart from that will be available. We have created Salesforce also, right? If I'll try to search, it won't allow me to give, like it won't search and give me, right? So that's how it is. Now we're just going ahead with the resource. I'll just search for mine, and I'll just give scope as OpenID, because that is something I need to give, and maybe profile scope also. Okay, and let's preview the token, how is it will be going. So this is your ID token. This is how your ID token will look like. So see, it's going with some ID, then my name, then who is the issuer, then what is the audience restriction, then because audience restriction it is getting from here because it's selecting the app. Okay, and then see, test claim I passed no, and I just entered user dot first name plus last name, so that's why it's giving me this Vibhor, right? So that's how I can just add in different attributes or different stuff. And this is my access token. So this is how my access token looks like, although I did mention that if in case you haven't asked anything to the access token, your access token and ID tokens are exact same replicas. Okay, but if in case like you required certain things from the access token to the application, so at that point of time your access token gets changed. But currently it's like you have gone to the fair, you haven't done any, but you haven't done any shopping inside the fair, so at that point of time your access token and ID tokens are exactly same. But now if you go in and if you start doing something, maybe purchase something, have some rights, eat something, do something, so at that point of time your bills will change, right? So that's how access token will also be getting changed over here. So I know, I mean, it might have been a little bit confusing for you guys. I'm ready to, repeat it again, but I would just pause here for a moment and would request you, if in case you guys have any doubts, we can start discussing that. Anyone with any doubts, guys? Okay, then I'll take that as a no. If in case you have any, then just please come up with those things. So okay, so yeah, I mean just mentioned about this authorization server stuff. So although we are going to talk about these authorization servers again, we'll be coming back to the security topic. Currently, we are just working with this application stuff, so that's why but over here in application there is a topic which is linked to security API, and that's why I just had to cover this thing today. But like I'll cover this thing again once we'll have the security topic being covered. Okay, so don't worry on that. And if in case you just want to go ahead and try something, so you can just go ahead and create your own authorization server. Like maybe I'll just create mine, test web, or audience is something I can get it from my web app. Like only give those audience URLs which you have created in Okta. Like your when you see audience no in Okta with regards to a like OIDC, just go ahead to the application, and this is your Okta. I mean, this is your audience every time, your client ID. I mean, this is how it is being recognized, like, right? So that is why this is your audience. And once you just created, see, there is an automatically there is an metadata which is generated by Okta itself. So there are some basic default scopes which you have, claims you will come up. You can just add your own claims. Then there is no policy, so it won't even work. So you need to add a policy over here. Sorry. So you need to add a policy over here, and you can just say that I am using this authorization server for my test web app. So once you click and create, so you can just create a policy. Once you have created a policy, you will have to add a rule over here. So you can just say test rule, and once you have added the rule, at that point of time you can just create a rule and assign it. So this is happening like you have created a policy and there's a rule which is also created, right? So uh, now this will be applicable to all, like to all the to this particular application. So you have created an application, OIDC application, and you have created an authorization server for that particular application. So now you can just give this particular metadata URL and the client ID, client secret, which was generated over here, right? So there was a client ID and client secret generated. So these two things and the metadata is something you can give it back to the application team. And then once, like, it's a token preview is something that you can see, okay, what the application team will be getting from your end, uh, like from Okta to the service provider, that is the application. So you can just because like, see, in SAML we have a SAML tracer, although I haven't covered that thing yet, but I will just show it to you guys. That will be very helpful in the troubleshooting skills. Over here in OIDC you don't have much things. Okay, you don't have any tracer that will say, okay, now the request went from the application, from Okta to the application, or application to here and there. So at that point it becomes a little bit tough. Application team might come up to you saying that you guys are not sending us the right details. So that is why we have the token preview, saying that you can just show it to them that this is how our this is how our stuff looks, and we are sending you the correct data. Just let us know if in case we are missing something. So that's like just a troubleshooting skill over here. But apart from that, that's it from the authorization server. You can just go ahead and create your own. I'll just deactivate mine because it's a free trial version. But yeah, I mean, like, if in case you feel that there is something which is not clear to you guys, just come up and we can discuss that. Okay. Okay, guys. So, like, we have covered all three protocols, which includes like our SAML, Secure Web Authentication, and OIDC protocol, using all the custom connections. Okay. If in case any of the protocol is not clear to you, just come up and we'll have a doubt session. Also, if you want, we can just keep one doubt session for everything what we have covered till now. And also, I would request you guys, whatever we are doing here in the class, just go ahead and practice it on your own. Like even if you are not understanding what exactly, or why are you clicking on these steps, but trust me, that's how you will learn Okta. like, and that's how, because you'll do something, you'll do it, you might do it wrong, but then you'll understand, okay, this didn't work, and why this did not work. And currently I'm also here to help you guys your troubleshoot. If you are not doing something right, I can just let you know, and at that point of time you'll understand, okay, this is how we have to do it. So just have that experience with us.
Hi.
Yeah, go ahead, please.
Right.
Sorry, your voice is not audible.
Can you hear me?
Your voice is not audible.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, please, sorry.
Hello?
I'm not sure if is it possible if you can just type? Okay, okay. For single sign-on, do we need to create how to get access to Okta? Okay. Okay, so I can just go ahead and create your account in Okta. Just please help me with your first name, last name, and email ID, and I'll just add it to you over here. Okay. Okay, and your email ID, please. Your Gmail ID you can give if you have. Okay. Okay, so I think Srinivas, you would have got an email on your Gmail. Currently, you would be able to see that your account is in the pending user action. So once you'll get the email, just activate your account, and you'll be able to see the status over here for if once you activate your account, and at that point of time, you can just get the access to this environment. Whatever we are doing here, you'll be able to see it. And it's not necessary, as I mentioned before. I just want to reiterate that this is a tenant which I created on my Gmail ID. Okay, so you guys can also create your own tenants on your Gmail ID. But the reason why we have not created separately is because first thing is, like, whatever we are doing, everyone can see it, right? Like, if everyone will have their own tenant, like, people cannot just see the configurations of each other, and you guys might get confused. So you can just go ahead and create your own configurations over here. You can see it, okay, what we have done before, and that way you'll feel more comfortable in working with Okta. And the second reason being, because after 30 days this free trial license will get over, and if in case our training is not getting over after 30 days, so then none of us will have an account to actually work with Okta. So, like, if in like after 10 days or 20 days, if in case we feel that training will take more time, we'll just create an account with some of your Gmail IDs, and at that point of time we'll add all the people over here like I'm adding. So that's how it will work. So just Satya, sorry, Srinivas, you can just go ahead and activate your account, and once you do it, you'll be into the environment. And yeah, I think you're already active, so perfect. So anything else, like any doubt? Okay, yeah. So provisioning in SAML is something we are going to talk about, Dheeraj. Actually, I'm just talking about single sign-on for the time being. The reason being because I started with the single sign-on, and provisioning and stuff like that comes under identity management. So I've mostly started with the access management part for the time being. We are going to talk about the provisioning stuff, and how we can achieve it, and what is like different kinds of provisioning that we have in Okta. And then we'll have those sessions wherein I'll just show you what do we have to do in those scenarios. Correct. So okay, I'll just okay, today class single sign on. All this info we are sending to Salesforce. Sorry, I'm not sure if I got your question correct, Srinivas. Pranjal, I'll just deactivate one of the applications, and you can just go ahead and create a connection. I'll just deactivate maybe Salesforce test webber, because I think we are all. I'll just deactivate it. Like, if in case you want to see it, you can see it. And if in case any one of you is actually trying it, just go ahead and deactivate all other applications being created and keep on trying. Like only maximum limit is 5 for the free trial version, so we cannot have more than 5 apps created over here. And Srinivas, I'm sorry, but I did not understand your question correctly. So, like, I'm not sure if, like, in what currently, like, whatever we have seen today was only for the OIDC one, and we haven't seen the exact demo of OIDC. The reason being because we need to create an OAuth, I mean, an application on our local system, by which, we can have this demo. Like, we require localhost 8080 to be, active with an Apache Studio server, and then only we can just do it. Okay, OIDC is kind of a single sign-on protocol. So we have different kinds of single sign-on protocol. Although we have, already discussed this in previous classes. So, but like, I'll just reiterate that we have different single sign-on protocols, and OIDC is one of them. Okay, so like we have SAML, OIDC, Secure Web Authentication, WS Federation. So like out of all these, SAML and OIDC are the most, you can say modern way of authenticating with regards to single sign-on. So we discussed SAML, I think 2-3 days back, and today we were trying to discuss OIDC. So basically, OIDC is nothing but kind of a layer sitting on top of OAuth protocol. So it's kind of an authentication protocol which works in a particular which works in a particular flow, and this is the flow of an OIDC. Like you have your end user, you have your application, and on which you are trying to get into, then you have the authorization servers which we discussed today, and then you have your API by which you get the users data or stuff like that. So this is how the flow of an OIDC works, and this was something I think, I mean, you might have joined today or yesterday, so you might have missed this class, but this was something we discussed, like how this flow works and stuff like that. So today we were just having that practical demo of OIDC. Okay, anything else? Okay, guys, so we'll move forward then. For the time being, let's go ahead, and it's good that you are coming up with some questions or doubts. So just keep coming up with them. It's good to have the interactive sessions, and if in case like there is something like which is still not clear, just come up with your doubts, and we'll try to solve each and every one of them. Okay, so we'll start off with the next topic, that is we have just covered single sign-on. Don't think that we have covered this complete application tabs over here. Mention like provisioning and stuff like is something which is still pending. I'm not 100% sure that what exactly we can cover in all the free trial license, but the thing is like we covered a OIDC demo today, right? So I just want like I need to show you guys exactly like if you talk about provisioning. So for provisioning we require an application under which we have the admin permissions. Now I was trying to create an account on Salesforce admin, but they don't allow us to do that, because like again we don't have a tenant for Salesforce, right? A purchase tenant. So why will they create us as an admin over there? So I can just try from somewhere I can get that information, and I can show it to you guys. But like provisioning and stuff is something I can just show it to you. I can just explain it to you in a very good manner, and also show it to you practically that how exactly and what exactly you have to do on your end to make sure that provisioning is happening. Now exact demo where provisioning is happening is something which might not be possible, or provisioning again requires that users are created on the application side also, or if users are created on application side, they are coming into OKTA also. So that requires a lot of access on the app side also. We just cannot have those application access for with us, because we are all working with the free trial license versions. So that's why. But like I'll make sure that we are covering all the topics. We are not missing any of these things. Like we have gone through application, so it doesn't mean that we have completed the application. We have just completed the single sign-on part of the application, which includes SAML, OIDC, and Secure Web. Now we'll be coming to provisioning, or deprovisioning, or API credential stuff later on these application part itself. So next we'll be moving on to the directory stuff, that is the universal directory. Okay. Okay, guys, so just let me know. Maybe we can start off with the universal directory today. So universal, what is a universal directory? So any like any suggestions or anything which you can think of with the word directory, like anything which you can think of it. Okay, what is a directory? If I need to ask you guys, anyone, if they want to try, even wrong answers like would be appreciated. I just want you guys if you can try something like what do you mean by a directory or what do you think a directory is? Anyone? I mean, you guys can type in the chat as well, or you can just unmute yourself and let me know. Anyone? Okay, no problem. I'll just start off with a directory in such a manner that see you have a database, right? Then you have directories. Now both are both are the source of data. Okay, so for example, if you talk about any organizations, right? So every organization has their data in the form of a directory itself. You might have heard about the name Active Directory, that is your AD. So Active Directory is again a Microsoft product, and it's a very strong product wherein organizations like store all of their data in the Active Directory. You have an Excel file, right? So if you talk about like startups or very small organizations like having like only 50 employees maximum, so they kind of they might not be purchasing a AD license. Like AD Active Directory is not a free product, it's a licensed version which you have to purchase from Microsoft. So they are not interested in buying or purchasing. At that point of time, those people just maintain the data of their employees in the form of an Excel, or any open source database which is available for free of cost. Like organizations, they don't want to spend money for such things. Like 50 employees, they feel like it's not big number, and why do we have to purchase license to actually maintain data? But now when we are talking about huge organizations like maybe Baker Hughes, Deloitte, Capgemini, Microsoft, Amazon, they are having more than 2 lakh employees, right? So it's not possible to maintain their data on a sheet of Excel. Like, okay, so like if you are maintaining the on a sheet of Excel, then 100% there is a possibility that you would be messing up with that data. And even companies, what they do is, like, even if you leave the organization, they still keep your data. Your account might be in a disabled format. Like you have left an organization, you might have moved to another organization, but still that previous organization is having your records, right? So when I'm saying 2 lakh employees, they are their active employees, like Deloitte or Capgemini or Wipro or other organizations. They are having 2 or 3 active employees who are currently working with the organization. But there would be more than 5-10 lakhs who have actually worked with the organizations and they have left. So they are kind of maintaining around 10 lakh, 15, 20 lakh records with them, right? So that becomes impossible to maintain that data on an Excel sheet. And hence we have directories which actually helps us to maintain or store all of this data. Now directory comes with licenses. Okay, and what is a directory is something like it's kind of like it we have an Active Directory and we have LDAP directory. So Active Directory is kind of like it's a kind of a schema is like a discipline of data. So the way in which you are storing the data is something should be very efficient. The reason being, because if in case you are finding Vibhor, like you have 2 lakh employees, you are trying to find Vibhor's name, right? So what do you think Excel will take? Like Excel will go to, like it will iterate 2 lakh rows, right? Until it will get my name, right? So that becomes a huge task for Excel to do it. So now this what people have done is that they have tried to manage or store this data efficiently in the form of a directory. So directory is kind of a tree structure data. Like you have the parent and the child's coming up. Okay, and then there is a distinguished name for every particular element. Like for every particular employee there would be a like kind of a path, you can say. Okay, so that makes it very easy for us to for the directory to actually go in and check the user record. Okay, so that's just a quick introduction of what directory is. And now I mentioned about Active Directory and LDAP directory. LDAP directory is lightweight directory access protocol. It's kind of a light version of Active Directory. Again, used to store data, almost the similar structure of what you have as an Active Directory. Even Active Directory is your LDAP directory. So it's kind of storing the data in a very efficient format, so that whenever you want to fetch or get the data, you can get it easily. Or even if you want to add some data, like new records coming up, new employees joining every week, you want to add those data, it can be done very easily. You can just structure or group them. Okay, these people belongs to sales, these people belong to HR team, these people belong to manager group, these people belong to senior manager group, and stuff like that. So it's a very efficient way of actually maintaining the data, creating OU, that is over functional groups. So you can have organizational unit groups, sorry. So you can have different ways to store the data effectively, and that's what your directory is all about. So Okta has its own universal directory. Now it's a very rich feature which Okta comes up with. If you would have already worked with some other protocols, right, like ping, or maybe MIM, or other identity access management protocols, so most of them doesn't have their own directory. Like ping has its own directory, but it's altogether a different product of ping. Like whatever we are doing here in Okta, they do it with ping federate product. Now there is a product named as ping directory. So like they have two different products. Like over here in what we are doing is, we are just seeing one product of Okta, right? We are not having various products of Okta over here, that we have to do application integration over here. Maybe directory, we'll have some other product, some other URL. So we don't have to worry about all those things. But in ping, you have to maintain those servers also. You'll have different products. First of all, they are all on premises, and they are all different products. So you have to install everything and then maintain all the servers. So it becomes kind of a hectic thing for the admin team. So that's why Okta comes up with a very rich feature, that is with its own universal directory. It delivers rich user profiles and fine-grained control over how attributes are exchanged between applications. So why Okta has come up with a universal directory is because it makes it easier for the organizations to create and maintain a single source of truth for its users, enabling new authentication and provisioning scenarios. So now when I say single source of truth, right? So let's try to understand the single source of truth meaning. So you can think of an organization, and that organization is having uh, different ways to store the data in. Like for example, you have an organization one. Now that organization cannot have just one directory. What if, like that directory is corrupted? So organization is going to lose everything, right? And also, like, you have HRMS data, like the HR management system data, so there is a directory for it. Then you have sales data, so maybe there could be another directory for it. So there are multiple directories within an organization. It's not always just like an organization is like big organizations are just operating with one directory. Because what if the data is corrupted, or it's like the servers are down or something goes wrong? So like companies like entire organization's complete organizational data will be gone, which is like a confidential thing, and no organization can lose it. Like organization pay lot of big amounts to get their data back, when there are ransomware attacks, like hackers get into the systems and they decrypt the data and stuff like that. So no organization would would ready to lose their data. So that's why they have different directories where they store different kinds of data. So even if one goes down, there are many other directories by which organization can get the data. So now single source of truth means that there has to be, but at least there has to be one directory which consists of everything. Like, okay, so I don't know like if you guys are working or not, but if in case you would have joined any organization, or if you will be joining an organization, or if you have done your your college, so that point of time you fill a lot of forms, right? Like you are being provided with a lot of forms by the organization, and you go ahead and fill them, like your first name, last name, I don't know, like many things. You are being asked many things: your father's name, your mother's name, your account details and stuff like that. So there are many attributes which are associated with just a single user. So all of that data has to go somewhere, right? All of that data gets stored in a directory. Okay. And the main directory which is getting, where you are storing it, it could be your active directory, it could be your Okta universal directory, it could be your LDAP directory, it could be your ping directory, it could be any directory. Okay. But there has to be one directory which consists of all the data about all the employees within an organization. Okay. And then you can have, many like small directories which consist some data, like, maybe like if you have 50 attributes, 50 different attributes, like your name, last name, first name, surname, middle name, Gmail, your email ID, your account, your account details and stuff. Like, suppose you have 50 kind of attributes associated with you. So what can be done is that there could be minimal, like small directories being created. See, one for the payroll team, like which just consists your account details, one for the sales team, one for the like, talent team, or one for the timesheet. So there could be different directories created, which would be like, child of the parent directory. Like, they might, out of 50 they might contain just 10 attributes or 5 attributes or 7 attributes about a user. But there has to be one directory which consists of all the data, and that is your single source of truth in identity and access management. Like, that's how we call it. Like, most of the organizations, you will see that active directory is the single source of truth. But there could be scenarios, where your Okta can also act as your single source of truth. So within Okta, now what happens is, if there are different directories which are integrated, then also you can have Okta universal directory as a single source of truth. So what happens over here is, like, if I go to the directory and if I go to the people, so I can have, Okta users created, which I'm just creating. Like, all 5 of us are Okta users. Okay. And I can just, integrate my Okta application with another directory, suppose an LDAP directory, and from that directory I am just getting maybe 10 users. Okay. So total becomes 15. So this universal directory becomes my single source of truth. The reason being, because it's consisting of all the users which I have in Okta, right? It has included those directory users also. It has included me, the users created in Okta also. And that's the reason why we, call this as the single source of truth, because everything is there in Okta right now, in the Okta universal directory. So that is why, it's a single source of truth. So with universal directory, you will have access to the profile editor in the admin console with the ability to store rich profile of user attributes in Okta. So when we talk about profile editor, right, this is a profile editor. So, like, there is a concept of attributes. Attributes is nothing, it's just the like the schema or the discipline of data which a user has. Like, it's just containing the information of the user. You can think it of in that way, just the user information in different formats. And that's what attributes are all about. So you might be, interested in mapping, or sending or transferring different attributes from one place to another, and that this is the place where, you can do all of it. So then we can also customize and extend our user and app profiles. Now, what is a user and app profile is something I'll just let you know. So see, user and app profile is that, like, I just created a user over here. So this is my user profile. This is my user profile, because when I go in, this is my user profile, right? So now app profile is something, if in case I have created an application, and that user is coming from the application to Okta. Okay. Currently, this user is in Okta. So this becomes user dot, like, first name, last name, or, this is a user profile. Now, if there is an app profile, means that there is an application integrated with Okta. Suppose, like, we have this application integrated with Okta, maybe Salesforce integrated with Okta, and at that point of time, there are users being, coming from Salesforce to Okta. So those users come under app profile, because they are the users which are coming from the application. They are not created inside the Okta. They are coming from application to Okta. Like, from, if some user is coming from directory to Okta, it's not an Okta mastered user. You haven't created that user in Okta, right? You have created that user in Active Directory, or you have created that user in Salesforce. Now that user is coming to Okta, so that becomes your app profile. Okay. So, you can just customize, or change the settings of these user profiles or the app profiles using universal directory. Also, there is the bi-directional mapping, like, it can be done from Okta to any application, or from application to Okta. Like, it's not restricted that Okta can only change on the application side. Application can also change on the Okta side, and that's why it's bi-directional. Also, like, it has the capability to do the synchronization of the profile. So synchronization is a very important concept when we talk about identity and access management. So suppose, like, you have single source of truth as your Okta, and there are different directories which are also containing like, data. So synchronization is required, because see, if one day Okta goes down, so there has to be, different directory which is consisting all the data, right, till the time Okta is brought up by the team, right? So like I told that, there is a single source of truth, which means there is also a concept of replication and synchronization. Replication or synchronization means, like, if I have 5 users as a in directory one, and I'm treating single directory one as single source of truth, so then those 5 users has to be replicated. I mean, exact 5 users need to be synced with some other directory also. Like, this directory one and directory two will always be in synchronization. The reason being, because if one of the directories goes down, we have the other directory which has all the information, right? So, like, single source of truth means, like, you have all the information in a particular directory, that there is only one directory having all the information. You don't have multiple directories having all the information. But, like, if you have one directory with all the information, there has to be another directory which is synchronizing with that directory, so that, there is no problem of availability. Like, if you, in case you have one server going down at that point of time, you don't have to worry about it. There is concept of high availability, which you can just, take it up from there. So it also helps you to, provision application user accounts with rich profile information, such as roles, managers, geological locations, and, other attributes. So, like, it's this kind of a synchronization concept only. And then also, play around with attributes, like, any custom attributes created in application or in Okta. You can just add attributes, create, delete attributes, do stuff with those user attributes and the application attributes which are there in the universal directory. So all in all, like, it's kind of a directory which, like, which helps you to store different user details in Okta. And this consists of, like, people is something which we are already looking into. We'll see, like, how we can create people. Currently I'm doing it manually, but this is, usually it's not done it in this way. We can either do it through a CSV file, or, using Postman, also like using API. So we are going to see how, we can create users using API. Also, we are going to see how, how do we group people. Currently we just have one group, right? So we'll have different groups created, we'll add people in those groups. And why do we require groups in Okta? Then profile editor is something we just, talked about. So we'll see that, how mappings can be done over here. And then we'll have directory integrations. Again, for directory integrations, we don't have any free license versions where, we can actually go ahead and do the directory. But I'll show you, like, how this can be done. So it won't be a live demo, but exactly, like, you'll understand what a directory integration is and how you can achieve it. And also, 90% of the times, if in case you are already working in an environment wherein, environment is already set up, then you won't be working with this. But yeah, if you are working for a new client where you have to, do the environment from scratch, then you have to, have this knowledge on this directory integration. And then you'll have profile sources and the self-service registration. So we'll just, talk about these things. So tomorrow, like, I mean, the next class is going to be completely on the directory, like, directory tab, which will include everything, like the theoretical knowledge as well as the practical knowledge. And I think, yeah, that's it. Like, we can take it from there, from our next class. So yeah, I mean, if in case you have any doubts for the time being, you can just, go ahead with those.
So, you mentioned that, sir, right? This is Srinivas actually. So,
Yeah.
you mentioned Okta is down, and we have some other database or directory, right?
Mhm.
So, how it single sign-on works? If Okta is down, I cannot log in, right? Multiple applications with my user ID. Right? I need
Mhm.
to enter each and every time, right? If Okta is down.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Actually, like to be honest, if Okta is down, right, it has to be, whenever like you purchase a tenant for Okta, no? So because since it's on cloud, so there's a concept of 99% availability of Okta within the SLA agreement which is being signed with the Okta team. So if in case it's down, that doesn't mean it will be down like, for like an hour or so. It has to be brought back in within 15 minutes. That we can consider as the downtime. Yes, people will be affected during that time. What I was trying to say during that time was about the the on-premises servers, like maybe your Active Directory is down and out, okay? So and your Active Directory is integrated with Okta, and your Active Directory is the source of truth. So at that point of time, you can treat Okta as the source of the truth. I mean, Okta will be down. I'm not saying that Okta cannot be down ever, but the thing is, like, since it's a cloud product, so that is something we cannot have control over. Like, we cannot bring Okta up back again. So that's why we just sign the agreement, and Okta team has to bring it back for us, like, so if in case, like, if it's more than 15 minutes, then they start losing money for the tenant which they are providing. So but like mostly, like, you'll see that Okta will not be down, but if in case it's down, then it's like on the Okta team to bring it up back.
Okay, sir. And one more question, so Salesforce, right? For example, Salesforce.
Yeah.
So in Salesforce application, you have different, roles for each user, those
Hmm.
kind of things, right? So in Vokta, it will copy all these. Like if I create my ID Salesforce, right? I have a Salesforce given a user ID with the email ID or something and password setup. So
Hmm.
I will like the yesterday's, right? We set up and we gave that user ID and password everything. So, but
Hmm.
how about the roles and all? It will automatically transfer from Salesforce to here, or we need to create everything in Workday again, all the roles, everything. So, what access level you are giving, right, and those kind of.
Right. Right, right. I understood. Yeah. Okay. So actually, this is concept of provisioning. So to be honest, from actually, if you talk about, if you have created roles on the Salesforce side, right, and you want to bring it to the Okta side, actually, it's not like, because Okta is more of like an AM tool. It's on access management. Like, if you want to do that stuff, I think like SailPoint or Savient would be the your go-to tools to bring it. But what maximum Okta can support over here is that you can create Okta groups, and then you can come up with the provisioning concept in Okta. So like, for example, you have created Salesforce admin group, you have created Salesforce user group, you have created Salesforce manager group, or like whatever roles you have created different Okta groups for that. And then you have mapped the users accordingly in Okta, and then you have finally gone ahead and provision it. So now what, there is a push group configuration in Okta. So all these groups will be configured in Salesforce as it is, like they'll be going with the same data. Now if there are users created on the Salesforce side within these groups, they will be automatically added in Okta. If in case you are added, or users are added within Okta, they'll be automatically provisioned within the Salesforce. So that's how it works. But like, if in case there is nothing set up in Okta and we are trying to bring all those roles to Okta, that is not possible.
Okay, sir. And one more question I have is this IAM, right?
Yeah.
Identification Access Management Tool, and this Okta, both are interconnected, sir. Just because I'm using in my office, IAM,
Yeah.
identification to raise the access request for user groups and other stuff, for each and every application. So
Mm-hmm.
that will behind the scenes, it will work as a Okta. In Okta, it will work like that, or what is the difference?
Yeah.
Because I
Okay.
am aware of IAM tool, right? So creating users, requesting the access and other stuff like.
Correct. So basically, when we say IAM, right? So IAM is not a tool. It's like kind of a domain only. See, like when we say cybersecurity, it's a domain. Under cybersecurity, we have identity access management, one of the domain. Okay, and under IAM domain, we have different tools which helps us to achieve this concept of IAM. So, like if we talk what is IAM, it's basically managing the identities and the access of those identities in an efficient manner. So that's what Okta, SailPoint, Savient, Microsoft Identity Manager, these tools are helping us to achieve. So Okta is one of those tools, which is coming up with this concept of IAM, like, which helps you to achieve, like if you're doing IAM, like if you're talking about IAM, then what do we have under IAM? We have like, identity management and the access management. Now under identity management, what do we have? We have provisioning concept, deprovisioning concept, certifications concept, roles concept, access profiles concepts. We have these set of concepts. Now to achieve these set of concepts, we require tools. So for those, like, we have tools like Savient, SailPoint, Identity Now, and stuff like that. And when we talk about access management, we have single sign-on services, multi-factor authentication, maybe push group configurations and stuff like that. So to achieve these access management configuration, I mean logics or concepts, we have different AM tools which includes Okta, One Login, ForgeRock, and stuff like that.
Yeah, okay, sir. And one more last question I have is
Yeah.
like you created my user ID. I joined today, right, sir? You created my user ID. So is there any reference I can use, like as if somebody created, all the things, like I can use their thing as a reference, like how to create and all this stuff, or I need to play these videos and do that, like
Yeah, I
creating
mean,
single sign-on and other stuff. Yeah.
yeah, I think Rakesh would be helping you with the videos. How do we create it? Although, it's very currently like just creating a user manually, it's very simple. We just go in and add a person. But like, to do it through an API or through using, CSV file is something we are yet to cover. And if in case like, if you're not sure of like how do we exactly do it, where do we go, then I think you'll have to, go through the videos that we have done before.
Okay. And is there any revision class every week, like, so what we covered so far and like a session kind of thing, or?
I mean, like if everyone in the batch is fine with it, I don't have any issues, taking a revision class, like, a doubt and a revision class. So, we can plan it that way. I don't, have any issues. I can just go ahead, but I just want, everyone is fine with that. So like if everyone wants a revision class, I'm fine with that. I'm absolutely fine. We can have a revision class wherein, we can cover whatever we have covered till now, and also it could also be a doubt session, like, you guys can come up with your doubts.
Yeah. Okay. Sure. Yeah. Okay. That's all I have. Thank you so much.
No, no problem. Okay, guys, then anyone else has anything, or we can drop off for the day?
We are good.
Okay, perfect then. Thank you, guys. Have a good one. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Yeah, thank you, sir.